Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction materials that can remember.
Really is something else.
We're talking about metals that can change shape, polymers that can assemble themselves, and even nature's own data storage system, molecular memory.
It really is incredible stuff. And what's even more amazing is that we're not just talking about theoretical possibilities here. This is all happening right now.
So where do we even begin with all of this? I think I want to start with shape memory alloys. I read about this metal called nitinol. I'm completely fascinated by it. How can a metal just spring back to its original shape after being twisted and bent like that?
It's all about the atomic structure of nitinol. You see, it can switch between two different crystal arrangements. So when you bend it, you're actually forcing those atoms into a less stable position. But when you apply heat, they snap right back to where they want to be. And that's what makes the material remember its shape.
So it's not magic then.
Not magic, no, but I'll admit it's pretty close.
So what are we doing with all of this memory metal? What kind of real-world applications are there?
Well, in medicine, for example, nitinol is being used in stents that can be inserted into blood vessels. And because of its properties, they can be put in a compressed form. And then when they warm up to body temperature, they expand and open up the artery. It's also being used in braces for teeth, that constant gentle force as they warm up in the mouth.
So it's actually being used to improve people's lives in such a direct way. That's amazing to think about. But it's not just medicine, is it?
No, not at all. Nitinol is so lightweight and adaptable that it's ideal for lots of things, robotics, aerospace, and even everyday things like eyeglass frames that spring back into shape after being bent.
That is so cool. I also read that they used nitinol in the Mars Pathfinder mission.
Oh yeah, that was a great example of nitinol at work. The Martian terrain is incredibly tough on anything that moves on it, so traditional wheels would have been too prone to damage, but nitinol is so flexible and resilient that it could absorb the shocks and just keep on going. And of course, its ability to remember its shape meant they could compact those wheels for the journey, which saved space and weight.
Wow. So it's a real testament to both the material and the ingenuity of the people who realized what it was capable of.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on to something that is equally fascinating, self-assembling polymers. So these materials sound like they're something from a science fiction movie, building themselves into complex structures from these simple building blocks. How is that even possible?
Well, it's a concept that's inspired by nature. If you think about how proteins fold themselves into these intricate 3D shapes, or how cells organize themselves into tissues and organs, scientists is now harnessing those same principles to create synthetic materials that can spontaneously assemble themselves into these structures.
So you're basically giving the polymers a set of instructions and then letting them figure out the rest, is that right?
In a way, yes. It all comes down to the interactions between those polymer chains. And by manipulating the chemical properties of the polymers, we can control those interactions. Essentially, we're programming them to attract or repel each other in specific ways. And that's what allows us to create these materials that can assemble into such a wide range of structures, from simple spheres to complex networks.
I mean, that is absolutely incredible. It's like a microscopic construction crew that builds itself. What are some of the applications for self-assembling polymers?
Well, one very promising area is drug delivery. Imagine being able to create tiny capsules out of these self-assembling polymers, load them up with medication, and then inject them into the body. And these capsules would be designed to only release their contents when they reach a specific target, like a tumor or an infected area.
So you could deliver incredibly targeted treatments with fewer side effects. I can see why that would be a game changer.
Exactly, and that's just one example. They could be used to create self-healing materials or smart textiles that adapt to temperature or moisture. They could even be used to create biocompatible scaffolds for tissue engineering.
Okay, now you're really blowing my mind here. This is definitely sounding like something out of the future.
Well, the future is closer than you think. And that brings us to what I think is the most mind-boggling concept of all molecular memory.
Okay, lay it on me. So this is where we get into nature's own data storage system, right? But how does nature pack so much information into something as tiny as a molecule?
Let's take DNA as an example. This is the blueprint for life, right? It contains all the information needed to build and maintain an organism. And the secret is in the sequence of its building blocks, those four nucleotides, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine.
So it's kind of like a four-letter alphabet that spells out the instructions for life.
Exactly. The order of those letters along the DNA strand determines the proteins that are produced, and those proteins control all the functions of a cell.
That is incredible. It's so much complexity encoded in such a simple system.
And this coding system is so efficient. Nature can pack an unbelievable amount of information into a tiny space. I mean, think about this. The human genome, the complete set of genetic instructions for a human being, contains around 3 billion base pairs. That's 3 billion of those A, T, C, and G letters. And all of that is crammed into the nucleus of every single cell in your body.
That is just mind-blowing. But DNA isn't the only molecule involved in molecular memory, is it? You mentioned proteins earlier. What do they do?
Proteins are the workhorses of the cell. They carry out all kinds of tasks, and their ability to store information lies in their unique 3D shapes. Imagine a long chain of beads. Each bead represents an amino acid, the building blocks of proteins.
Okay, I'm picturing it. So how does a simple chain of beads become a complex 3D structure?
The sequence of amino acids in that chain actually determines how the protein folds and twists to form a specific and often very intricate shape.
So it's not just the order of the beads, but how that order influences the final structure.
Precisely. And that 3D shape is crucial because it determines the protein's function. It's like a key fitting into a lock. The protein needs to have the right shape to interact with other molecules and carry out its specific job.
So proteins are like these tiny, precisely sculpted machines, and their shapes are the key to their function.
Exactly. And this ability of proteins to store information in their shapes is essential for so many biological processes, everything from enzyme activity to cell signaling.
It really is amazing how nature has evolved such incredibly elegant and efficient systems for storing and processing information at the molecular level.
It is. And scientists are now trying to harness the power of molecular memory for technological applications. One area that's really exciting is data storage. Imagine storing a library's worth of information in a device the size of a grain of rice.
That sounds like something out of science fiction. Is that even possible? What kind of molecules would you use for that?
Researchers are exploring a lot of different approaches. Some are using DNA as the storage medium itself. Others are designing synthetic polymers that can store information in their sequences or shapes, basically mimicking those principles of DNA and proteins.
So taking inspiration from nature's playbook and using it to create new technologies.
Exactly, and the potential benefits are huge. Molecular data storage could completely revolutionize computing imagined devices with unbelievable storage capacity and processing power.
Wow. I am officially in awe. This deep dive has already taken us from shape-shifting metals to self-assembling polymers to nature's own data storage system, and we're just getting started.
We've barely scratched the surface. Stay tuned as we delve even deeper into this world of memory materials and see what the future holds. Welcome back to our exploration of memory materials. Last time we were talking about that amazing nitinol, the shape-shifting metal that's used in everything from medical devices to Mars rovers.
Oh, yeah. And those self-assembling polymers, those microscopic building blocks that can organize themselves into complex structures, just like nature does.
And of course, who could forget molecular memory, nature's ingenious way of storing so much information in such tiny packages?
Yeah. We were just getting into that when we left off.
Well, let's pick up where we left off then, and delve a little deeper into the fascinating world of molecular memory. As we mentioned earlier, DNA is a prime example of nature's data storage capabilities.
Right, DNA, that iconic double helix. But it's hard to wrap my head around how something so small can hold so much information. It's like trying to fit a whole library into a grain of rice.
Well, the secret lies in DNA structure and its coding system. It uses a four-letter alphabet A, T, C, and G, representing the four nucleotides that make up the DNA molecule. The sequence of these letters along the DNA strand determines the genetic code, the instructions for building and maintaining an organism.
So it's like a language where the order of the letters determines the meaning of the message.
Exactly. And just like a sentence can convey a complex idea with a specific arrangement of letters, the precise sequence of nucleotides in DNA determines the unique traits of an organism.
And that coding system is so efficient. Nature can pack a massive amount of information into such a small space.
Absolutely. Consider this. The human genome, the complete set of genetic instructions for a human being, contains roughly 3 billion base pairs. That's 3 billion of those A, T, C, and G letters. And all of that information is crammed into the nucleus of every single cell in your body.
That is just mind-blowing. But DNA isn't the only molecule that plays a role in molecular memory, is it? You mentioned proteins earlier. What's their contribution?
Proteins are the workhorses of the cell. They carry out a vast array of tasks, and their ability to store information lies in their unique three-dimensional shapes. Imagine a long chain of beads. Each bead represents an amino acid, the building blocks of proteins.
Okay, I'm picturing it. So how does a simple chain of beads become a complex three-dimensional structure?
Well, the sequence of amino acids in the chain determines how the protein folds and twists upon itself, forming a specific and often very intricate shape.
So it's not just about the order of the beads, but how that order influences the final folded structure.
Precisely. And that three-dimensional shape is crucial because it determines the protein's function. Just like a key needs to have the right shape to fit into a lock, a protein needs to have the right shape to interact with other molecules and carry out its designated task.
So proteins are like these tiny, precisely sculpted machines, and their shapes are the key to their function.
That's a great analogy. And this ability of proteins to store information in their shapes is essential for countless biological processes, from enzyme activity to cell signaling.
It's amazing how nature has evolved such elegant and efficient systems for storing and processing information at the molecular level.
Indeed. And now scientists are trying to harness the power of molecular memory for technological applications. One area of intense research is data storage. Imagine storing an entire library's worth of information in a device the size of a grain of rice.
That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But is it really possible? What kind of molecules are they using?
Researchers are exploring a variety of approaches. Some are using DNA itself as a data storage medium. Others are focusing on designing synthetic polymers that can store information in their sequences or shapes, mimicking the principles of DNA and proteins.
So we're essentially taking inspiration from nature's playbook and using it to create new technologies.
Exactly, and the potential benefits are enormous. Molecular data storage could lead to a revolution in computing, enabling the creation of devices with unprecedented storage capacity and processing power.
This is all incredibly exciting. It makes you wonder where this field will go in the next decade, let alone the next century.
The possibilities are truly mind-boggling. We've already discussed how shape memory alloys, self-assembling polymer, and molecular memory are each pushing the boundaries of material science.
But what if we could combine these different technologies? What kind of synergistic effects could emerge?
Now you're thinking like a true innovator. That's exactly what many researchers are exploring. Imagine a material that can not only change shape, but also store and process information, all while adapting to its environment.
It's incredible. We're talking about materials that can sense, respond, and even learn.
Precisely. And this convergence of different types of memory materials is leading to the development of truly remarkable applications. Example, researchers are working on creating self-healing materials that can repair themselves, using shape memory polymers to remember their original structure and self-assemble back together after being damaged.
That's amazing. What other applications are on the horizon?
The possibilities are vast. Scientists are exploring the use of memory materials in everything from smart textiles that can adapt to changes in temperature or moisture, to biocompatible scaffolds for tissue engineering that can promote the growth of new cells.
It sounds like we're on the verge of a materials revolution.
Indeed, and as we continue to push the boundaries of what's possible with memory materials, it's important to consider the ethical implications of these advancements.
That's a crucial point. With any powerful technology, there's always the potential for both good and bad.
Exactly. As we delve deeper into the realm of memory materials, we encounter questions that blur the lines between the living and the non-living. If we create materials that can learn, adapt, and even self-repair, what does that mean for our understanding of life itself?
Those are profound questions. And as we move forward, it's essential to engage in thoughtful and informed conversations about the ethical considerations surrounding these emerging technologies.
Absolutely. We need to ensure that these advancements are used responsibly and for the benefit of humanity.
Well, this deep dive has certainly been a journey. We've explored materials that can change shape, self-assemble, and even store information at the molecular level.
We've seen how scientists are taking inspiration from nature to create materials that can mimic the complexity of living organisms.
And we've touched on the ethical considerations that arise as these technologies continue to evolve.
But the journey isn't over yet. Join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll delve even deeper to the implications of memory materials for the future and explore some of the mind-boggling possibilities that lie ahead.
Welcome back to our final exploration of the fascinating world of memory materials.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've covered shape memory alloys like nitinol with that amazing ability to remember its original form, even after being bent or deformed.
And those self-assembling polymers, those microscopic building blocks that can organize themselves into complex structures.
It's like they're tiny architects designing and building their own miniature cities.
And then there's molecular memory, nature's data storage system, where DNA and proteins hold the secrets to life itself, encoding vast amounts of information in those intricate structures.
So we've seen how these materials can change shape, self-assemble, and store information at a molecular level. It's really incredible. But now I think it's time to talk about the ethical considerations that go along with these groundbreaking advancements.
You're absolutely right. The potential benefits of these materials are huge. But with any powerful technology, we have to consider the wider implications.
Because as scientists and engineers unlock the secrets of these materials, we need to make sure they're used for good.
Exactly. One of the key ethical considerations is the environmental impact, producing and using these materials responsibly.
We need to be mindful of the resources we're using and the potential for waste and pollution.
Absolutely. And thankfully, many researchers are already focusing on sustainable practices. Things like exploring bio-based alternatives and developing closed-loop manufacturing processes. That's going to be really important.
That's good to hear. But what about the impact on society? Will these advancements lead to new inequalities?
That's a critical question. We need to make sure that access to these technologies is equitable and that the benefits are shared widely, not just concentrated in the hands of a few.
It's like any powerful tool, it can be used to build or destroy. We have a responsibility to guide its development and use it wisely.
Exactly. Open dialogue and collaboration are going to be key. Scientists, policymakers, ethicists, and the public all need to work together to ensure that these materials are developed and used responsibly.
And as we venture further into this uncharted territory, we're encountering questions that blur the lines between living and non-living.
Materials that can sense, respond, and even learn. Where do we draw the line?
Those are big questions. What responsibilities do we have to these materials if they start to exhibit lifelike properties?
It's a philosophical dilemma for sure. And as we create materials that mimic biological systems, we need to really think about the ethical implications.
It's a good reminder that science doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's all connected to ethics, philosophy, and how we understand the world around us.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into memory materials, it's clear that they hold immense promise for the future.
We've explored materials that can change shape, self-assemble, and store information at the molecular level. It's opened up a world of possibilities.
But it's important to remember that the future isn't set in stone. It's shaped by the choices we make today.
So as we continue to explore and innovate, let's do it with a sense of responsibility, making sure these remarkable materials are used to create a better world for everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of memory materials. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining the possibilities.